Welcome aboard the Seatbelt Sign podcast. We've been cleared for takeoff.
All right, welcome back to another episode. Today I have Juan Gama here with Fit for Flight Coaching, and his business is helping all of us pilots reach our health and our fitness goals. I really love all your content, Juan. It's been really cool to see it. I really love your man in the terminal with a microphone where you just walk up to random pilots and you interview them. And right off the bat, I want to ask you, like, do you do that while you're flying somewhere, or do you sometimes purposely you're like, hey, let's go take a trip just so we can go talk to pilots in the terminal?
Yeah, that's funny. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on, man, and I appreciate you following the content. And yeah, the interviews with the pilots is something that we noticed started going viral for us. And it was just really an idea me and my content guy, my slash assistant coach had of what if we just interview pilots while we're at the airport. So it did start mostly, yeah, if I'm going on a trip, I'll go in there like an hour or two earlier for that specific purpose to just walk around and find some pilots to talk to. But I haven't necessarily taken a trip specifically just to get interviews, but I have bought like some cheap Spirit flight or something just to get in the airport. And it's funny, one time I actually went with no ticket. I was just like, let me interview them before security. And I actually got kicked out. Like they walked up to me and was like,
Whoa.
hey, you can't be in here, sir. I don't know what you're doing, but I don't know if you're here with like some media or something, but you can't be interviewing. So I was like, okay, don't do it before security. After security is usually when I don't have any issues.
Okay, awesome. Duly noted, because I've wanted to do that too, and then I saw you were doing it. I was like, oh man, he beat me to the punch, but
Oh, really?
super cool, man. I love it. And just to give a little bit of background on you, you have this great video, I think it's on your Instagram, where you just kind of talk about how you got into this. So you were an architect. You got tired of the 9 to 5. I have a similar story. I was doing accounting, got tired of that,
Mm,
got into aviation. Um,
nice.
and you worked at a nutrition facility, was it?
Weight loss clinic.
Weight loss clinic. Yeah. And so you had all these results and you're like, I'm going to find a really good niche, and you decided to work with pilots. And I think that's awesome, man. So if you want to like give a little bit more background on how you got into this and how you got started.
Yeah, man. So like you mentioned, I was stuck in the office and it just really wasn't for me, man. I didn't like, I've always been a creator at heart. So seeing something I create come to life was always very fulfilling for me. But just the office life, working for somebody else, staring at a screen all day, having to report to somebody. Boss was also kind of an asshole, and so working for somebody like that was never fun. And so I started to think, okay, well, how can I do my own thing? And so I thought I could start a business, and I tried to do it on my own first, and I went online and I was like, okay, how to start a business. And obviously, I always say similar to fitness, you can go on Google and look up how to lose weight, how to build muscle, and there's so much information out there, but there's too much information, so you don't really know what specifically is going to work for you. So I ended up trying all these different projects. And then after a couple months, I realized I had nothing to show for all my efforts. And so during this time, I was actually following a coach who helped other coaches build businesses. And I knew from the get-go, I probably needed help. I probably needed somebody that I've never built a business before. I didn't know what I was doing. Probably need some guidance. Whether it was my ego or wanting to be self-made or whatever it was, something was holding me back from actually asking for help. But after I put in a couple months of just not really seeing any results, not really knowing what I was doing, I said, all right, screw it. Let me hire a coach. Let me see where I can take this. Hired a coach, and instantly everything changed, right? And this is kind of like what also opened up my eyes to realizing what it is that I provide for my clients, which is an actual roadmap, actual structure, having steps to follow rather than just guesswork of let me try this, let me try that. It was no, here's what we're gonna do, here's how we're gonna do it, here's the time frame in which we're gonna do it, and then it creates a completely different experience because now you know where you're going. Now you actually have a path laid out that's been proven to work. My coach had all these results from other people, and now I'm surrounded by this community of people also doing the same. So we sat down and we were like, well, what are you good at, Juan? And I was working in the weight loss clinic throughout high school and college. And so I kind of knew how to help people lose weight, how to help people with that area of their life. And so I decided that could be a good one. And then I'm also a professional break dancer. So I've been doing that. So that's also another thing that kind of had me in like the fitness realm of like taking care of my body and stretching and being flexible and all that. So that's why I decided to go down the fitness route. And then me and my coach were like, okay, well, who can we help? And because I was in an office, I thought office workers, because they were always complaining about their backs. I was around people sitting all day and they always complained about sitting and their backs hurting and all that. So I thought that would probably be a good niche. So that was actually my original idea. Me and my coach, we did some more research and it was random that we came across pilots. But we realized pilots have a lot of the same issues. It's a very sedentary job, obviously, very unique issues with hotel gyms and workout equipment availability and sleep schedules and airport food. But what really drew me to pilots was that nobody out there was really like providing this service. That was 5 years ago now. There was one guy, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Fit Aviators Club, Fernando. I've actually interviewed him at Oshkosh, but he was the only one that was kind of like a full-time pilot, also coaching pilots. But I talked to him and he's like, yeah, I coach on the side. But he wasn't really like fully focused of like, hey, I'm gonna build this whole thing that's like focused for pilots. I think it's just I think his market is pilots because he knows that lifestyle. He knows what it's like. But again, like it's for him, it's kind of like a thing on the side. And there was nobody else. Nobody else. He's still doing his thing, so shout out to him. Now we've seen a couple coaches pop up here and there, but I still feel like nobody's really doing it the way that Fit for Flight is doing it. That's what drew me to pilots, though, the fact that nobody out there was serving them, and there's a clear necessity for it. And that's why I decided I'm going to focus on pilots.
Dude, I love that, man. It's very awesome. Props to you for being an entrepreneur, taking that leap, and you really have built something really cool here. It's so, quick tangent. You said breakdancing. That's really cool. I always wanted to do that. When I was in sixth grade, I was trying to do the worm, bro. It smacked my chin on the ground. It ended up
Oh no.
busting my bottom teeth. I like spit out a bunch
Oh,
of tooth chunks. Never
oh
again,
my
dude. Never
gosh.
again.
This
So
sucks,
that
dude.
was the
I
end of.
actually had a friend who he was trying to impress some girls and he went for a wall flip, slammed on his face,
Oh
and he's
no.
like, he never flipped ever
Yeah,
again.
yeah. Oh man, that was the end of it for me. Um,
Yeah.
well, cool. So you've built, and I think obviously word of mouth now that you're pretty big, but I feel like you get a lot of people through your social media. Am I right?
Yeah, so mainly we get our people from Facebook. Instagram, we have a big following. We have a lot of eyes. What we're noticing is we're attracting a lot of students, and
Okay.
students aren't always ready
Right.
to join the program. But I'm happy to still give as much value to them and still provide them with, whatever they might need. Obviously, they're going to be pilots one day as well. What I like about Instagram is that it is getting our name out there. Like a lot of pilots, when I walk up to the airport, they're like, "Oh, I know you." Like I'm being recognized, and so it's putting the name and the brand out there. So we're being a lot more recognized out in the industry now.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's Fit for Flight Coaching on any social media, anywhere. Fitforflightcoaching.com. Is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Okay.
That's
Awesome.
our website.
I love your webpage, man. You got some really great testimonials on there. I was scrolling through.
Thank you, man.
Um, back to kind of what we were saying earlier. Do you ever get any pushback when you go interview pilots? Is anybody ever like, yo, who's this weirdo? Get this microphone out of my face? Or are all of them pretty much like, yeah, cool. I'll answer any of your questions.
Yeah, I haven't I mean, we get a lot of no's. People are like, no, I'm in a hurry. I don't have time right now. Nobody's been rude. Nothing like, oh, who's this weirdo? But we have gotten several, oh, my company wouldn't want me to be on camera or anything like that.
Those are just
No.
lame people.
Yeah, they're scared to be. We've actually had some where they're like, "Hey, I need you to take the video down." One guy, his tattoo, I guess, was showing, and he was like, "I can't have and it went viral. And so I guess his coworkers told him, "Hey, dude, you probably don't want that on the internet."
Yeah, I get that. There's, you're supposed to be like representative of the company, and
Some
I don't.
companies are just really strict, man. I had a client who he had like a 30-second clip of him somewhere and he had to have like a hearing and like
Uh,
he got in trouble. He got like off pay for like a month. I was like, Jesus, for a 30-second clip where
that's
he didn't say
horrible.
anything. He was just in uniform.
That's horrible. Well, look, I don't think I'll ever be an airline guy just because I can't do the hats. I think they look like bus drivers with those stupid hats. Like, so you'll never catch me doing it. But to shout out to all the pilots that have answered all your questions. I love the content. I did notice that you went to Oshkosh. That's super cool, man. You're doing more than me out here in the pilot world. So kudos to you. I'm going to switch it back.
Have you been to Oshkosh?
I have. I just haven't been with a microphone out there yet asking people questions.
Nice.
So that's coming up next.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right, I'm going to jump back into weight loss because that's your bread
Okay.
and butter. All right, so sleep, exercise, diet, right? Everybody says, oh, if you want to lose weight, like you got to pay attention to these three things. In your opinion, which is the most important, or does it really not matter?
I would say obviously nutrition plays a very big role, but I think they're all important, right? I think that's the problem sometimes with like, for example, like in-person trainers, which are great, and I've trained in person as well. But I think sometimes the in-person focus is a little too much focus on the exercise, which is awesome and it's important to have proper form and it's important to know what you're doing in the gym and have a proper training plan. But I think your whole lifestyle is really what it comes down to of like what you're doing on a daily basis, how you're spending your time, how much are you actually moving, and how you're eating. Because you could be eating perfectly, but if you're not moving and you're spending your time on the couch and you're not sleeping properly and you're not drinking enough water, then again, it's like only one piece of the puzzle. I think they all matter. Nutrition, exercise are obviously two of the bigger pillars. But I think what a lot of people underestimate is the power of just moving and getting your steps in. And because I've had clients where they're hitting their workouts, they're hitting their macros, they're hitting their nutrition, they're getting their steps in. It seems like on paper, they're doing everything right, but then maybe their weight starts to stall. And so one thing I always have to make sure I ask my clients is, what are you doing on your free time? And sometimes I'll get, well, like I'm watching TV for like 4 hours, I'm scrolling around. And so like when we make changes into those periods throughout your life, then and incorporate more movement, then the scale starts to move again. And it's the thing is, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Netflix and relax time. But I think pilots, the big mistake that they make is that rather than making that a leisure activity, they start to become the lifestyle, which is understandable because if you're sitting in the cockpit all day and then, you're tired, you're fatigued, you get home, your first instinct is usually to let me lay on the couch and relax and eat some chips and watch some TV. But the problem with that is that your levels of energy, like if you're feeling fatigued and tired all the time, that probably and very highly likely is correlated to how much you're moving and how much you're being active and how much you're taking care of your body. You want to think of your body as kind of like a rechargeable battery. If you never recharge it, then it's always just going to be on low battery and it's always going to be, fatigued and tired. But if you recharge it through exercise, through movement, through fueling it properly, then you're going to have more energy. And yes, flying fatigue is still a thing, and you're still going to have to deal with the challenges that pilots have to deal with on a daily basis. But your body is going to be a lot more well equipped to actually deal with that. And also, if you're overweight, well, that's lowering your energy, that's lowering your testosterone, that's making it so that you have to carry extra weight with you everywhere that you go. And if you've ever lifted like a 50, 40 pound dumbbell, if you're 40, 50 pounds overweight, that's what's happening. And so imagine carrying that everywhere that you go. Imagine like your big briefcase that weighs 50, 40 pounds, but you just have to carry it everywhere that you go at all times. You're going to feel like crap. You're not going to feel good.
You said that in one of your videos, and you referenced a kettlebell, and dude, that hit home for me so hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love that video. Now it's really interesting, and I can talk about this from my personal history. I used to do aerial survey. We'd be in the plane for like 6 to 8 hours. We're really not doing much. We're just flying around. You're just sitting on your butt. It's not hard. I don't understand what it is that we feel fatigue at the end of the day, and we feel like, okay, well, we worked all day long, so now we deserve that Netflix, right? But when I would actually like try to drown out that voice in my head and go to the gym and do like even just a 30-minute something, it's like you said, I would feel re-energized. So I don't know if you have any advice to just tuning out that voice, being like, no, you sat on your butt for 8 hours. Okay, you're not actually tired. And I don't know why we feel tired after not doing much, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's you're in a pressurized tube all day, like you're at elevation, there's a lot, obviously that takes a toll on the mind and the body, so that's natural. But also we are what we do repeatedly. If you do that all the time, and I know pilots that throughout their whole career, that's what they do, even when they're students, they get home and they don't move. They're just they've developed this lifestyle and this mentality and this way of operating through life that is lazy, that's inactive, that's not, not moving very much. So if you condition yourself to do that all the time and you even say it, because people are always like, I'm just lazy, I'm just tired, you have to understand that your words and your thoughts have power and they can control your actions if you believe them for long enough. So if you believe you're a lazy person, and you say it and you think it and you validate that repeatedly through your actions, you're going to be a lazy person. But you weren't born lazy. Nobody's born anything. Everybody kind of develops this throughout their life. So if that's what you've conditioned your mind to operate on, then yeah, you're not going to feel like going to the gym. You're always going to feel tired. You're always going to feel fatigued. And then that starts to stack up, because the older we get, the more and more, the harder and harder it becomes to climb out of that hole. So if you're aging and you're gaining weight and you're not moving and you're spending your time in the flight deck all day, well then yeah, that's going to compound and you're going to feel worse and worse and worse as time goes on, right? So it's that feeling of I'm tired, I'm fatigued, that's a feeling that you have to come to terms with, that it's not going to go away until you actually start taking action, until you actually start doing the actions over and over and over, where it becomes ingrained in you and where it becomes part of you. Because, like I said earlier, we are what we do repeatedly. If we do lazy activities, if we sit around, if we don't do much all the time, then that's what you become. But that goes for anything. If you start going to the gym, if you start eating healthier and you do that repeatedly, it might be hard at the beginning because you're shifting the way that you live, you're shifting your identity. And to shift an identity, to shift the way that you are and the way that you operate, your old identity has to die. That old identity doesn't want to die. That old identity wants to control and wants to remain in control. And it's going to do everything in its power to remain in control. And that goes through your thoughts, through your words, and through your actions. So you have to kill that old identity and you have to step out of that comfort zone, because that old identity is an illusion of I'm comfortable. And you might be comfortable on the couch. You might be comfortable eating your junk food. That might be comfortable right now, but what's going to happen down the line? You're going to live the most uncomfortable life where you can't stand up without hurting, where, like you have to be diagnosed with something, where you have to take pills for the rest of your life, where you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars in doctor visits, where you lose your medical. That's going to cost you way more than what it would cost you to just step out of your comfort zone and take action.
Dude, that's so cool. I really love what you said there. So for some short-term comfort, you're going to have long-term pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. And I've never thought of it that way. No one's ever said it that way, but that is so true. So
And
that's
then
awesome.
the true is for the opposite, right? If you step out of that comfort and step into the discomfort of getting in the gym, working out, because working out's not always comfortable, like you have to push yourself, you have to be mindful. That's not as comfortable, but that's creating the most comfortable outcome for your life, which is being healthy, being confident, feeling your best.
Dude, I love it. You're obviously a good coach because you're already convincing me, man. I love it, dude. I love it.
Appreciate you.
Well, let's talk a little bit more nutrition specific. And that is the part that I struggle with the most. And so I was reading some of your testimonials on your webpage. And one that really struck me was such and such lost this much pounds in this much months. And he didn't even have to give up beer. And that's what I'm really curious of, is how important is eliminating alcohol? because I once did like a 100-day break and I just saw the weight just fall off
Mm.
my bones, man. Like within a month, I lost like 10 pounds. So obviously, if you quit alcohol, right, you're not consuming those calories, and your body, I guess, just is able to process everything much smoother. But how important is it? Like, is it really going to screw yourself up if on the weekends you go have a couple of drinks with your buds, or what do you kind of coach people on?
So, not necessarily, man. I think it's all about priorities and your relationship with alcohol and also understanding what's happening to your body when you're drinking alcohol. Because there's a couple issues with alcohol. It's a poison. As
True.
much as people don't want to believe it is because it's enjoyable and it feels good. And I even like my having a drink from time to time. It is enjoyable, but it's a poison. Your
True.
body treats it like a poison. And what does your body do with a poison? Your body's top priority becomes to get rid of that poison. So whenever it enters your body's top priority becomes to now get rid of it. So in that process, it's going to put any fat burning or any muscle building on the back burner. So when that's being put on the back burner several times throughout the week, then how much progress are you actually going to make? You have to keep that in mind. So with my clients, I usually recommend if they are heavy drinkers, which we get a lot of them, pilots enjoy their alcohol. I like to just say, let's try to limit it and let's also try to limit it throughout the week rather than it being every other day. Save it for the weekend and then like limit how many drinks you're having and then even still try to fit it into your calories. Like you said, it is empty calories, so it's additional calories. So that's the first problem is it's putting any muscle building, any fat burning on the back burner. The second issue is what I just mentioned. It's empty calories. And also on top of those empty calories, alcohol is the opposite of protein. So protein is super important for fat burning and for muscle building because the reason it's so important is because our muscles are made of protein. It's the building block of muscle. So in order to build muscle, you need to have those building blocks. And then also when you're trying to lose weight, it's natural to feel hungry. It's natural to feel cravings. Protein is actually the most filling macro. It makes you feel the fullest. So that's why when you have a high protein meal, when you drink a protein shake, when you have something that's high in protein, it does make you feel fuller. And so it helps you deal with that a little bit better. So that's why it can be very beneficial. But also alcohol is the opposite. So, like protein makes you feel full, alcohol makes you feel emptier. It makes you want to eat more. It makes and so this is why people enjoy the Taco Bell, the McDonald's after a late night of drinking because they're craving it. They feel emptier.
I couldn't agree more. I call it the drungies for alcohol because it's your drunk
Right.
munchies. Man, there's been so many times where on the weekend I'm throwing back some beers with the boys, and then I'm like, "Who wants a pizza?" And I'll eat an entire pizza by myself at midnight, and then go to sleep at 12:30. So I consumed like
Exactly.
3,000 calories and went straight to bed.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So it lowers your inhibitions. So when you're under the influence, you have all these empty calories. Let's say you had six drinks. Okay, that's usually like, let's say
700
100,
calories. Yeah.
yeah, 700, 600 calories. And then on top of that, the whole pizza or like, a bunch of Taco Bell. So you're not thinking how much calories is in this. You're thinking, oh, I just want to eat.
Yeah.
And so when your inhibitions are lowered, you're not thinking about, your nutrition. You're just trying to enjoy yourself. So that's the problem. It's empty calories, and then it's additional calories from you just wanting and craving it and not really thinking, does this matter? I'll worry about it in the morning, right? And then another big problem is that it completely screws up your recovery. It completely screws up your sleep, and it's sleep is huge. Your recovery is huge. You need to have proper sleep, proper recovery for your body to actually make progress. So you add all those things up, and if you think about doing that every single week, yeah, you're not going to see that much progress. But if you're able to balance it and say, okay, let me have two drinks this weekend and let me fit it into the goals and let me make sure I don't overeat afterwards, it can fit in, and if you give it up altogether, well, then that's the best. Because like you said, I've had several clients who just say like they take a month off. I had this client specifically who really enjoys drinking, and he would occasionally take a month off, entirely off. Every time he did that, the scale would plummet because he wasn't drinking, because he wasn't incorporating that. So that's what you have to keep in mind. So it's not that you have to give it up. It's just that you have to build a healthy relationship with it and just be mindful of all those things that's happening to your body when you're actually consuming alcohol. And also the beautiful thing is that when you get healthy, you don't crave it as much. Associate it differently. You don't associate it just with the good time. You associate it with, man, I had a killer workout today. I don't want to feel like crap tomorrow. You start to associate it with that, and then it just becomes easier to just say no.
You touched on this earlier, and I don't know what it is about aviation, but alcohol is just a huge part of the culture. And I've kind of gone down that rabbit hole too. And there's something about it, you have a long day of flying, and then you and your co-pilot, it's like, bro, let's go hit the bar. Let's go have a nice cold one. But it is like you said, it's going to mess up your sleep. You're going to have a touch of a hangover in the morning. You're probably going to overeat. You're going to feel like crap the next day you have to go fly. So I don't know what it is that we got to do with the culture, but it would be pretty cool if sometime in the future, instead of saying, hey, bro, let's go hit the bar. Hey, bro, let's go hit the gym and like chug a protein shake. All right. So keeping on with the theme of nutrition, have you had any clients that were kind of near diabetic and you were able to bring them back down to healthier conditions? Because I know we all pilots, we all have to keep our medical, and that's something that we're all afraid of. It's like type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, any shape or form of like becoming diabetic, it is just a career killer. So have you had any experience helping guys like kind of get away from that?
Yeah, all the time. I think naturally, if you lose weight, if you get healthier, your blood work is going to look a lot better. You're going to be a much better shape. And then, you're going to be eating less sugar because you're just going to be making better choices. And the thing with the nutrition again is that I don't give my clients like a diet or anything that they have to be super strict about, or I just teach them how to eat properly, what kind of foods to lean towards, how to eat better. And then when you start eating better, you just, same with the kind of like the alcohol that I was mentioning, it becomes easier to say no to the unhealthy stuff because you associate it differently. And you also have more body awareness. When you have more body awareness of how that stuff actually makes you feel, then you create a healthy relationship with food. And that's what we strive to do with our clients. And when you create that healthy relationship with food, again, you just make better choices.
Yeah, and it is definitely the harder of the two, eating healthier and making better choices and exercising versus just popping a pill, because the doctor is
Mhm.
just going to prescribe you something. And then a lot of guys out there, they're like, oh, well, I can still eat the Philly cheesesteak because I'm on statins or I'm on whatever. But it's realistically, it's like, nah, man, you gotta make some better choices. So
Mhm.
talking like pharmaceuticals, nowadays everybody's talking Ozempic, right? These GLP-1s and et cetera. What do you think personally as a trainer? Do you think it's good for some? Do you think like it's pretty dangerous for everybody? Because I don't know. I think there's something weird about the body just suddenly losing a bunch of weight all of a sudden and not really putting in the work of the time.
I have a couple clients on Ozempic or Tripecid. I forget the one that starts with a T.
Yeah,
I
there you
forget
go.
how you say it, but they work. It's not that they don't work. I'm not a scientist, so I can't, give you all the studies and all the stuff behind it of like, is it good or is it bad? I think I personally believe there's not enough long-term research, and I don't know what's gonna happen down the line when all these people taking this stuff, are gonna feel, or if they're gonna have any side effects or any lingering things from that. Uh, so yeah, they work. They're gonna suppress your appetite. They're gonna make you eat less. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, like you said, man, like your body losing weight, a ton of weight in such a short period of time is not natural and it's not healthy and it's not good. And it's hard for people to sustain that because what you see a lot of the time is they hop off the drug and then they eat their butts off and then, their weight starts to come back up. There's that yo-yo effect that we see with those. And your body also didn't gain weight overnight. Your body's not meant to lose it that fast. So, if you're taking it because you want to lose as much weight as fast as possible, I'd encourage you to rethink that because, like I said, like your body didn't gain that weight overnight. And so If you take a slower approach where, a more sustainable approach, it's going to be just that. It's going to be sustainable. You're going to be able to sustain the weight loss. Now, if you're taking these drugs, but you're also developing the habits, going to the gym, making sure that you're developing this different lifestyle so that you can keep the weight off, I think that can be a better approach. I'm not a fan of taking something else that's going to, again, like suppress my appetite. And some of the side effects are nasty, like they can make you nauseous and make you, and then, food just doesn't taste, it just tastes bland or like stuff like that. That just doesn't sound fun to me. Like sure, lose the weight, but what kind of habits, what kind of lifestyle are you living? Because if you don't develop that and you lose the weight, you're gonna gain it right back.
Yeah, and even further side effects. We all hear those on the commercials where they're like, "Brrrr," and it rattles off like 60 side effects, and they're all like, "Oh my gosh, that's way worse than the actual illness that I have." But I was in a terminal last night waiting on some passengers, had a late night flight, and I picked up this magazine at the high level of like resorts, high end hotels. They're seeing this big change caused by Ozempic. So now, like food and alcohol isn't really. They're eating smaller portions. They're sharing meals more. So their food profits are going down. People don't want to drink alcohol as much. So there's a lot more mocktails, right? And so they're pivoting, and so now they're leaning more into fashion because they say, oh, people with new bodies, and they want to go buy new clothes that are going to fit them better. But in addition to that, which I thought was really funny, they're seeing a lot more promiscuity, a lot more infidelity, is what they said in the magazine. So I was like, oh snap, rich guys are getting thin, and then they're going out and having some some ladies on the side. So watch out, people with those Ozempic, man. This is going to take you down some dark roads. Possibly, just put in the work, put in the time. Call Juan; he's going to help you get healthy the right way.
Sure. 100%.
So,
That's fun.
so also on your website, I saw a lot of guys, their results, it said somewhere around 5 months. They're really, really seeing results. So I think that's a big deterrent for anybody, particularly myself. It's like you're not seeing results very quickly. It takes time. So when do a lot of your clients really kind of get that aha moment and they're like, I've been putting in the work and damn, I'm starting to see it in the mirror and damn, I'm starting to feel better.
Everyone's different, man. I have people that lose. Obviously, when you have more weight to lose, it's going to come off faster. So some guys will lose a bunch of weight in the first month, and I've had clients lose 50 pounds in 6 months, in 5 months, which is awesome. And when we think of like you want to lose it fast, you could still lose a lot of weight fast. I mean, it depends, I guess, what your idea of fast is. You don't want to lose 50 pounds in 2 months. That's excessive. That's not healthy. Like that's almost like you cut off a limb. That's how much the amount of weight that you're losing at that point. But I have plenty of clients that lose a lot of weight fast. If you want to call that fast, I think that's pretty fast. In 5 months, 6 months to be 50 pounds lighter. Some people it takes years to gain that much weight. So to get rid of that in a couple months is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, that's 10 pounds a month. That's crazy.
Yeah, so everybody's a little bit different though. Like I mentioned, like when your body has more to lose, it comes off faster. Some clients maybe won't see any weight loss in like 4 months, but we look at their pictures and we're like, man, it looks like you lost 20 pounds. Because sometimes the body doesn't necessarily just shed all the fat off. And again, it depends what your body composition is currently like and where you're at, and again, like how much you're lifting, because what can happen as well is that you're gaining muscle while you're burning fat, and so your body's kind of like recomping, and so that's what happens a lot with my clients too. The progress isn't always on the scale. So if you're lifting, if you're getting stronger, if you're doing resistance training, and then you're also eating right, you're moving enough, and you might not even see the results on the scale, but that's why we have our clients take pictures every 2 weeks, and that's why we have them take body measurements, and that's when they start to notice that their uniform fits differently. So and then back to your question of like when do they have that aha moment? I don't think there's one particular moment that's like, oh, it finally clicked. This is something that happens over time. This is something that you start to shift the way that you think. You start to shift the way that you look at nutrition. You start to shift the way that you look at exercise. And that happens over time. Again, because just like the lazy habits and the habits that aren't serving you and the addiction to bad foods and junk food and fried foods, that also happened over time. That's not something that just overnight you were just that person. That's something that maybe your family normalized that in your household, or maybe, you just started a new job where it required you to work so many hours that that became the habit and you started doing that over time. All these things happen over time. So I don't think there's like one moment where it's like, oh, this finally clicks. I think after 6 months, after 12 months, they maybe have that moment where they're like, man, look at where I started and then look at where I'm at, and sometimes it's pictures, and sometimes we'll pull it up and be like, dude, look at your first pictures and then look at where you're at now. Like your abs are showing, you feel more confident. And even throughout the journey, I've had clients where they're like, man, I'm just not losing weight, I'm just not seeing progress. And then I'm like, bro, pause and remember where we started. Remember this. And that's another thing I always like to push on my clients is not forgetting where you started, and also understanding that the vision and the mindset behind it is huge. Like understanding where it is that you want to go, what it is that you want to achieve. Because when you have an end, when you have a goal in mind, when you know where what you're going for, it makes the journey a lot easier, because then you can reverse engineer of like, okay, how do we become this person that has the six pack? And it doesn't have to be a six pack, but just as an example, how do you become the person? Like, what does that person do on a daily basis? They get their steps in, they wash their food, they meal prep when they need to, they do all these things. And then you can reverse engineer and already kind of start moving like that person. And before you know it, you get to a point where you're like, wow, this is me now. Like this is my life. And then you can't even fathom going back to the old way of life, because now you've experienced all the benefits that come with being healthy and being fit.
Well said, brother. Well said. I like it. So that just parlays me into my next question, which is, you're coaching these guys, you're taking pictures, you're doing updates every so often. What is your tone like with your clients? Do you kind of, obviously everybody's a special case, but are you kind of more of like the soft, gentle, like, hey, buddy, we're going to get there, we're going to do it? Are you the drill sergeant, like, listen here, Tom, you need to get your steps in and you're not doing it? So like, because, I teach people in the airplane and you kind of got to individualize it, but overall, what is your kind of tone like?
I think it's similar. I think everybody responds differently to different type of coaching. Sometimes I do got to be a little bit more brutally honest, and like they have to hear some stuff that it may come off as direct, but sometimes I'll ask for permission. I'll be like, okay, do I have permission to kind of like give you a little bit coaching here? But I think everybody responds a little bit differently. Some of my female clients, I might be not softer, but just maybe um communicate a little bit differently, just but we always want to make sure that, see, one thing that I always make sure we do with our clients is know that our focus is on the wins, so what we're doing good, what we're doing properly. Because I'm a big believer that where your focus goes, the energy flows. So if you're always focused on the number on the scale, if you're always focused on, I don't like the way this food tastes, I hate going to the gym, I don't feel like going, I'm not motivated. Well, you're always going to be focused on all that, and your mind is just going to find every reason, every excuse, and you're just going to be focused on that. So instead, if we focus on, hey, look how many steps you got, look what you did right, look at all these meals that you did, you look at all these days where you hit all your nutritional targets, you know, the scale maybe didn't move, but look at your pictures, and we focus on that. Then your mind starts to find all the opportunities where you can win more and when you can do better. That doesn't mean that the other stuff doesn't matter. We still make sure that we acknowledge what needs to be improved, where we need to make some action steps, what needs to be the focus for the week, and what we can do better. But that's how you get better. Because if you're always focusing on negative, well, then again, you're just going to surround yourself with negative thoughts, negative. But if we focus on the positive, it's still important to acknowledge the negative and what we can do better and where we can improve. But you just have a different approach. You have a different mindset behind it.
Beautiful, dude. Yeah, I like how you say, do I have your permission to kind of be blunt? I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna start using that myself. That's awesome, man. You're working in aviation. You're working with pilots. Kudos to you. You decided, look, I'm gonna build a business. I'm gonna find a target audience, and then I'm gonna find a niche within said target audience. All right. You found pilots. Man, you couldn't have hit the nail on the head better. But I'm curious, have you ever thought about working with flight attendants as well?
Mm. So, funny, I actually started my business in 2020 and COVID hit.
Damn.
And everybody starts getting laid off. I actually have a question. Well, not anymore, but I did question my niche for a long time of just, man, is this really the people I want to focus on? Because like I kept getting that of like, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna have my job. I'm very uncertain. And so naturally I'm like, man, is this even the right people to focus on? And then along the way, I remember it was like a specific client that I onboarded, a conversation with my mentor, a conversation with my coach. Like there was just like a series of events that made me fully commit into the pilot realm. And when I fully committed into the pilot realm, things started to happen. It just kind of started to fall in place. And I decided these are definitely the people I want to help. And the vision of like creating the biggest impact within the aviation industry kind of it was already born, but it kind of flourished after that point when I fully committed. That's why that's why I say vision is so important. That's why commitment is so important. That's why if somebody wants to join my program, I'm not just like, yeah, come on. No, it's like let's talk. Let's see who you are, what you're about, what your goals are, how committed, how serious you are, and then we can see if we are a good fit to work together. Because that commitment is really important to me. If somebody's not committed, they're not going to get results. We can show you how to do the push-ups. We can't do the push-ups for you. You have to be ready to take action. You have to be ready to actually take it seriously. So those are the people that we work with. As far as like working with flight attendants, I've worked with a couple. Um, we just market for pilots. Just pilots have been our people. Again, and it's not, I don't know, flight attendants are great. I'm happy and open to work with them. I've just enjoyed working with pilots more. And also, yeah, I don't know. I just the pilot niche is what we're focused on right now.
Well, two things that you said there I really love. Number one, you said, that you might not always take clients. I think that's really cool because that shows that you're not just in it for the money. You don't want to just sign on like 100,000 guys because it's a revenue stream for you. You really want to
Yeah.
see results and you really want to work with people that are passionate about getting to those goals.
Mhm.
Yeah. And number two, like flight attendants, man, I talked to a lot of them, have a lot of friends there. I was just curious because flight attendants, sometimes I feel like their job is even more stressful than the pilots because
I agree.
they are on every aircraft in the fleet, whereas pilots, we fly one plane most of the time. The pilot, yeah, we got to be there on time, but like the plane can't move without us, right? But flight attendants, like they are rushing and they're always eating, whatever they can grab in the terminal, same kind of sedentary lifestyle. And then in addition, there's like all my flight attendant friends, man, they are always partying somewhere. There's just like a big party culture there. So, hey, shout out to every flight attendant listening to the podcast. Like, call Juan if you really want to hit your health and wellness goals because, you guys are in the same boat as us pilots. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
well, cool, dude. Now, you work in aviation. Have you taken any flight lessons yourself?
I always get that question. No, I haven't actually, man. I think it'd be cool to learn how to fly a plane. Dude, if I'm being honest, small planes kind of sketch me out. And so the idea of getting in a small plane and taking like spending that many hours in a small plane, I don't know, it sketches me out a little bit. But that's just a personal like thing, you know.
Nothing wrong there. Well, I was just going to offer to you, listen, next time I'm in Florida, I'm going to call you. We're going to go give you a flight lesson. Next time you're in
All
North
right, I
Carolina, you
got you.
call me, bro. I got you covered. We're going to throw you in a plane
Wait, you're in
because,
North Carolina?
yeah,
What part?
The Raleigh area.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
Already.
My assistant coach is actually in Raleigh. I bet you, I guarantee you he would take you up on that offer.
Dude,
'Cause he's a little different.
all right.
Like He'd be down. I actually lived in Charlotte for 14 years, man.
Oh, dude, Charlotte is that part of North Carolina where you can't believe that this is North Carolina, because Charlotte is awesome, great nightlife, right? Like all the skyscrapers, everything. All right, well, please connect me with your assistant, because I would love to take him on a free flight lesson just so that he can experience it. And same thing to you, dude. Now I understand. Everybody says the same thing. Oh my gosh, being in a little plane is so scary. What I always try to tell people is, when you were 16 and you're getting your driver's license, do you want to start out in a small car, or do you want me to throw you in an 18-wheeler and tell you to go drive down the highway?
No, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, so the small planes, yeah, the wind may blow us around a little bit more, but less things to go wrong, less things to keep track of, and
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, and
I guess I always associate the bigger planes with being more automated, being more, everything has to make sure that everything's in check. Whereas small planes seems a little more casual of like, just, does that sound about?
True, yeah, and the big planes, they are more automated. They have a lot more systems on board, so there's redundancies. There's like 6 of everything in case one thing breaks. And
Right, yeah.
just to let you know, if you ever want to talk to your pilots about this, ask them what an MEL is, a minimum equipment list. So believe it or not, most of the time when you're flying on an airline, like a third of everything's broken, because there's so many backup systems that we have like an FAA approved list that says like, okay, if radio number 6 is broken, but we got 5 others, like we're still good to fly. So you're constantly like, sometimes the delay, you're like, why are we not going to the runway yet? Because they're looking through their manuals and they're like, are we allowed to fly with like these 4 things broken?
Yeah, my clients have told me some stories too.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. So, but dude, I'd love to take you flying. I think you'd enjoy it. The freedom of being able to just, once you have your private pilot license, to jump in a plane and fly anywhere in the United States is pretty cool, to take friends and family up. And just so that you can understand kind of the mindset of the pilot.
Yeah.
So,
No, for sure.
dude, let's get you in a plane. The other thing I want to mention is, dude, you've sold me. All right. I love it. I was thinking about it. I've had trouble, hitting my fitness goals in the past. Like I'm like really good for a long time, and then I just take these breaks and I go like, oh, I'll start my kettlebells again next month, right? And then I eat like crap, and then I, stay out too late partying on the weekends. So
And then when you're saying I'll start next month, do you actually start next month?
hell no, dude. Come on, man. You know better. I ain't.
And that's actually, I don't think people understand how psychologically damaging that can actually be. Because if, it's the same of like, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later. If you're constantly telling yourself that, what's happening? I want you to imagine that you arrive at the airport and you call a friend and you're like, hey, dude, can you pick me up? And they're like, yeah, I got you. And they never show up. You're like, okay, well, maybe something happened. Maybe they got busy, whatever. Let's say it happens a second time. No, I wonder what's going on. Like, why is this person not? Let's have it happens a third time. Okay, well, now what starts to happen? Okay, now this friend is the unreliable friend. This is the friend that I don't call when I need something. They're not reliable. I'm not gonna call them anymore. You start to lose trust and respect for that person. Same thing is happening with you if you're doing that over and over, right? Because now you're beginning to identify, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, you're beginning to identify yourself with being the unreliable person. And so the habit doesn't become, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna do this. The habit becomes, I'm gonna say I'm gonna do that and I'm not gonna do it. And then that becomes damaging because again, now you become unreliable to yourself. Now you become a liar to yourself. And that's a place that you don't want to be, because again, like then psychologically, like what is your identity? Your identity is the person that doesn't show up. And that's not good. Because the way that you do one thing is the way you do everything. That's going to bleed into every other area of your life. So you want to be real careful when you say, I'm going to do it tomorrow or I'm going to do it next month. And understand that every time you say that, you're tweaking the way that you operate and the way that you think in a bad way. It's not a good thing.
I really like that comparison, because that does kind of drive the point home. And I was doing so good. I love kettlebells because kettlebells are simple. It's like one thing I can have in my house. I've never been good about going to the gym and seeing all these machines. Like if anything, it just is kind of overwhelming. And then you see all these like ripped guys and gals in there, and then they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, so there's
really, but yeah, I get it.
So I would just enjoy the kettlebells because it's like one thing I can have in my house. I feel like it's a great full body workout. I was preparing for a snowboarding trip that I went on, and while I was there, I was like, okay, great. Kind of got a little bit of an injury, came home, and then I was like, oh, I need to rest. And then I got a dog, and then I was like, oh, I can't work out throwing these kettlebells around. I'm going to squish my puppy. So it was like all these excuses, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that I do need some help, particularly in the nutrition side. So
Mm.
I want to sign up. Let's go ahead and just lock it in. 6 months
Let's
from
talk.
now, we can do a podcast update. We could talk
Oh
about
man,
how
that
I
would be
got
amazing.
shredded. All right,
Yeah.
how Juan helped me. So yeah, dude. I'm gonna get the details.
Yeah. Let's do
We'll
it for
make a
sure.
plan because
100%.
it is hard to do it yourself. Like I think also too what you've mentioned in a lot of your videos. I would just go on YouTube and just do random kettlebell routines. Okay. Yes, I felt like I was gaining strength, but I don't know if I was really progressing at all.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it's sometimes people are doing some of the right things, but then if everything isn't like being done properly, you're probably missing out on a lot of gains and a lot of progress that you could if you had the proper structure, if you had the proper plan. And this is what happens every New Year. New year, new me. It's finally the year. I'm finally gonna get in shape. February comes around and people have given up. They're like, whatever, it's not working. And the problem is that, well, first of all, you don't want to rely on motivation, because a lot of people are like, I just lose the motivation. I'm not motivated. The motivation goes away. Well, you don't want to rely on that. Motivation is not reliable, and motivation will go away, and it won't always be present. But if you focus on developing discipline instead of like doing the right things over and over and over, you're going to become a disciplined person. What does a disciplined person do? They show up regardless of how they're feeling. So when they're not feeling motivated, they're going to show up anyways, right? And the beautiful thing about discipline is that it builds consistency. And the beautiful thing about consistency and being consistent is that it leads to actual real results. And those actual real results lead to actual real motivation. Because now you're like, man, I look different. My clothes are fitting differently. I feel more confident. I have more energy. And then that's the real motivation that everybody is looking for before even taking the right action, right? They just want that motivation to just magically appear out of nowhere. And that's not going to be the case. You might feel more motivated some days than others, but you don't want to rely on that. So when you understand that, then you can find that motivation through the actual discipline and getting the results. And even then, you're still going to have days where you're like, man, I don't feel like it. But because you rewire the way that you operate, you're going to show up because there's a deeper purpose behind that.
Yeah, man, I know the feeling well because I'm sure all your clients say this. Some days you're like, I don't want to do this, but somehow you find the will in there and you drag your ass to the gym and you just get
Mhm.
started. And then 10 minutes into it, you're like, I feel great. I'm so glad I
Yeah.
made this choice.
Mhm.
But for me, what's even harder than that is the nutrition side because I'll go work my ass off in the gym for, whatever it is, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. And then I feel amazing. And I'm like, I deserve to eat 17 tacos
Uh,
right now, you know?
right.
So even though I felt like I was getting strength, I
Mhm.
definitely didn't shed a single pound. And that's okay because I don't even really care about the number on the scale. I just want to look
Mhm.
better, feel better. So if I didn't lose a single pound off the scale, but I gained it all in muscle, like I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. And then also figuring out how you can, because you can still enjoy yourself nutritionally. Like I said, like I don't restrict my clients. I don't tell them, hey, don't eat this, don't eat that. You can still find ways to enjoy yourself. And you'd be surprised at how many like nutritious, tasty things there are out there that you can, in a way, reward yourself and use to, I don't know if you're familiar with like a Ninja Creamy, but there's like so many protein recipes that you can literally eat ice cream all day and like lose weight. Like I have bodybuilding friends that's what they do when they're cutting. They eat ice cream all day.
I know this machine. Yeah, my mom bought one a couple of years ago, and they
Oh
are
yeah.
so cool. They're awesome.
Yeah. So you can actually, there's actually a lot of recipes out there that are like protein based and like you can make like ice cream that's actually going to benefit you and like help you build muscle and get stronger and lose weight.
It is like you said. It's all mindset and learning kind of a little bit about how to eat healthier and all that. Because I don't know. In 6 months' time, we'll do round two of the podcast, and we'll give
And
everybody an update.
finding what you like too, man. Like kettlebells, let's build a plan on kettlebells. Like I always say that to my clients. Like if there's certain things that you enjoy doing more, some clients, I've had clients lose 40 pounds without ever stepping foot in a gym. They're just doing body weight workouts. but we're working out in something that you maybe not love, but maybe something that you enjoy more than going to the gym, lifting weights. There's so many things out there that you can be active and like still get results. You just have to find what you like. And I think that's another misconception that people have with getting fit. Oh, well, now I have to go to the gym 7 days a week. Now I have to lift weights. No, no, you don't. Most of my clients only go to the gym 3, 4 times a week. Even my most shredded clients, they only hit the gym 4 times a week. It's you just have to have the right plan.
Juan, I love it, man. Thanks so much for giving us a little insight into your coaching plan. I am
Mhm.
serious. I'm going to sign up. We're going to do round 2 here in maybe like 6 months time or
Good.
so. Talk about the
Let's do it.
results.
Perfect.
Yeah, man. Anything else you want to give a shout out to? Any of your socials or anything? Anything at all?
Well, thank you guys. If you got to the end of the podcast, thank you so much for listening. And then socials, yeah, Fit for Flight Coaching on all socials. Instagram if you want to see more like interviews and like entertainment and like also nutritional and like, we're dropping a lot of value on there too. Facebook, I do a lot of more like written stuff and like, you'll get a little bit of different stuff on each platform. But you can follow us on all of them and then fitforflightcoaching.com. And then if you are interested in the program, if you want to join, send me a DM, send me an email, where fitforflightcoaching@gmail.com. Whatever it is, reach out to me and we can chat. We can see if we're a good fit. I'd love to hear about your goals, what it is you're trying to achieve, and then we can see how we can get you there.
Awesome, dude. Well, hey, it's been a great convo. We'll see you on the
Sounds
next one,
good.
buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Clear to land, wind 280 at 7 knots.